Traveler and the Ghosts. Nagarjuna's Preamble. Then again, there are people who do have the idea of a self arise in relation to other phenomena. Take, for example, certain non-Buddhists who sit in dhyana meditation. When they employ the earth universal basis contemplation and thus perceive the pervasive existence of the earth element, they may then think, the earth is me, and I am the earth. They may also be prone to do this in regard to water, fire, wind, or space. Thus, on account of inverted views, they may then also reckon the self as existing within another person's body. Story: The Traveler and the Ghost. Additionally, there are times when someone generates the idea that his self inhabits another person's body. Take, for example, the case of a man who had been given a mission whereby he was compelled to travel a great distance. He spent the night alone in a vacant dwelling. In the middle of the night, a ghost carried in a man's corpse and laid it down in front of him. Then there was another ghost who chased along behind and angrily castigated the first ghost, yelling, "This corpse is mine. Why did you carry it in here?" The first ghost said, "It belongs to me. I carried it in here myself." The second ghost retorted, "The fact of the matter is, I am the one who carried this corpse in here." Then each of the ghosts grabbed one of the hands of the corpse and tried to pull it away from the other. Thereupon the first ghost said, "There's a man here. We can ask him to settle this." The ghost who had come in later then asked the traveler, "Well, who was it that carried this corpse in here?" The traveler thought to himself, "Both of these ghosts are very strong. If I report the facts, I'm bound to die. If I lie, I'm also bound to die. So, since I can't avoid being killed in either case, what's the point in lying about it?" And so he replied, "It was the first ghost who carried in the corpse." The second ghost flew into a rage, grabbed one of the man's hands, tore the limb off, and then threw it down on the ground. At this, the first ghost pulled off one of the arms from the corpse and attached it as a replacement. They then proceeded in this fashion with both arms, both feet, the head, the two sides, and so forth, until the traveler's entire body had been switched. The two ghosts then proceeded to devour the body which they had gotten from the exchange. When they had finished, they wiped off their mouths and departed. At that point, the traveler thought to himself, "With my very own eyes, I saw those two ghosts entirely devour the body born of my mother. This body which I now have here is composed entirely of someone else's flesh. Do I really still have a body now? Or is it the case that I have no body at all? If I hold the view that I do indeed have a body, that body is actually somebody else's entirely. If I hold that I don't have one, still, there is a body here right now." He continued to ponder like this until his mind became so confused and distressed that he became like a man gone mad. The next morning he went off down the road. When he reached the neighboring country, he saw that there was a Buddha stupa and a group of monks. He couldn't talk about anything else. He could only keep asking whether his body was existent or non-existent. The bhikshus asked him, "Just who are you, anyway?" The traveler replied, "Well, as for me, I don't know myself whether I'm a person or a non-person." He then described in detail the events which had transpired. The bhikshus remarked, "This man has a natural understanding of the non-existence of a self. He could easily gain deliverance." And so they offered up an explanation, saying, "From its origin on up until the present, your body has always naturally been devoid of a self. It's not something that just happened now. It is merely on account of an aggregation of the four great elements that one conceives of it as my body. In this respect, your original body and this one you now have are no different. Thus the bhikshus precipitated the traveler's deliverance to the path, whereupon he cut off all afflictions and immediately realized arhatship. This illustrates the occasional instance of reckoning the existence of oneself in the body of some other person. One cannot hold the view that a self exists based on its being there or here. Conclusion. Refutation of any valid characteristics of a self. Moreover, the actual nature of the self most definitely cannot be gotten at. And whether it be the characteristic of permanency, the characteristic of being impermanent, the characteristic of being inherently existent, the characteristic of not being inherently existent, the characteristic of being compounded, the characteristic of not being compounded, the characteristic of being form, or the characteristic of being formless, all such characteristics as these cannot be gotten at. If a characteristic exists, then a dharma exists. If there is no corresponding characteristic, then there is no associated dharma. Because it is now the case that this self is devoid of any characteristics, one knows consequently that there is no self.